Well, we're here today. My name is Jan Herkey. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation, and Marilyn Kollmorgen is here. The goal today is to capture history. And Marilyn, you have been, to me in my entire life, Miss Urbandale, where anytime that I think of Urbandale or talk to other people, your name comes up. And I always chuckle about the first time we met. I started with the City of Urbandale 22 years ago, and you called me up out of the blue and introduced yourself, and we went out to breakfast at the Urbandale Cafe. And I will never forget that, and I really appreciate that. So I was wondering if you could introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about yourself and about your family and information like that.
Well, I'm Marilyn Kollmorgen, and we moved here in 1970. And we just moved to Urbandale because there was a house available, and we needed a home for my husband and our 3 children. There were a lot of things that we thought we would do in the future, and we thought we would move from Urbandale. But with each tree and each shrub, we couldn't leave. So we were here for the duration, and we raised our family here. Our kids were 2nd grade, kindergarten, and preschool at that time. My husband was beginning the surgery practice. So that's how we started.
Oh, how fun. So you came to Urbandale, and now was your house on, I believe, Melanie Drive?
Yes.
And so that was right next to the Dunlops, which eventually became the Dunlop Park and Arboretum.
Right, and that was a cornfield when we moved in. And then the farmer planted it, and the Dunlops bought extra land behind when their house was being built. And then we shared a lot line, and the Dunlops worked so hard. They themselves planted the row of trees and shrubs on the lot line we shared. And after they got it all planted, we found that they were into our lot as well. So they took it all out themselves and replanted it. But through the years, we had a great relationship.
And maybe we can expand a little bit on that, where in the city had the wonderful opportunity. Paul and Jacqueline Dunlop donated or deeded 12 acres behind their home in 2012 to the city of Urbandale. And you had mentioned where they planted trees themselves. Well, after it was 40 years after that process, where now 4 of those 12 acres are a mature arboretum that is now a park in Urbandale.
With a beautiful sidewalk that the neighbors enjoy, the sidewalk as they walk for exercise. So it's beautiful.
And that's really neat. I love that part of where I got to know you, and then also the opportunity to meet the Dunlops and their generous donation. I love opportunities of finding those connections and those relationships, and that's one neat thing that I've found in the last. I've been with the city again for almost 22 years of those connections and relationships that people build, and it gives such a strong sense of community. Well, I'm going to pick your brain today in regards to your role and your passion for Urbandale. And that's one of the things I'll share with you of when I talk to different people of who should I sit down and interview about the history of Urbandale and capturing that. Your name came up more than anybody else's. And one of the unique things, and I, as a female in a management position as the Director of Parks and Recreation, am always amazed, and you're a role model to me in regards to your involvement in leadership positions in local government. And I understand that you were on the school board as well as the city council. Can you share with me a little bit about your experiences and what was the spark that got you interested in being involved in the community?
Well, I think my children. When you're a stay-at-home mom, and I had that opportunity to be home with my children, I got involved first with cookies for homeroom, and then that led to responsibility for that homeroom. And then when they went on to the middle school, then I got interested in helping at the middle school, and then following that stream, pretty soon I was on the school board. And
one of the things that I've learned about you as well is there's the saying of it's the 90-10 percentage of at church and any volunteer group. 90% are involved, but 10% are the ones that are doing all the work. So you certainly fall in the 10% rule. But what you're really good at, and I'd like to share a little bit about that, is you're not one just to say, go ahead and do that. And that's where I think of, you had mentioned through school, and I'm sure it's like, well, Marilyn will be involved with that. Well, Marilyn will help with that. So that's exciting that through that process to be in a leadership position. And both of those, or the school board and the city council, is an elected position. So were there other females involved in the school board or city council at those times?
No, there was just one, but, one followed the other. So Miriam Klein was ahead of me. And, it was easy for me to come up with ideas. I had been president of Mortar Board at Iowa State, and I had also been on the student government at Iowa State. So I wasn't afraid to lead a committee, and we had so much fun doing the jobs that needed to be done that it was fun to do.
Do you have any advice for current or future residents of the importance of being involved in the community or to take the time to get engaged? What advice can you share?
Well, I think you need to develop friendships all over town and for all kinds of reasons, and then use your mind and your ideas to build those up. So find a reason that somebody should be involved with you in a project. What is their expertise? Can they do certain things that you can't do? Of course they can. And you just enlist that and say, we really need you for this because I know you can do it. And, people respond to that. They want to be friends with people and they want to help. And I think we need to be more that way in making friendships, not to be a friend to take advantage of people, but to use their abilities. And that feels so good, that stretch.
What is one of the things that most excites you about Urbandale today?
We're not done yet. There's just a lot to be done. When you look at the land that we have annexed to the west, and although the schools are not ours all the way out, they are in Waukee School District. When we understand from the historical group in Urbandale how that all developed and how there are 5 school districts, 6 school districts, and some parochial schools also within our city limits, how that happened and what benefits. Some people don't even know what city they're living in until they see their trash can and it says the name of the community. So I think there's a basic understanding that we need to make so people know where they live, why it would be beneficial to them to do whatever we want them to think about, and involve them in the planning so their abilities and their interests grow. Would be my idea.
Well, I'm going to maybe embarrass you a little bit here. But again, when I was preparing for these interviews and I asked people of who should I interview, and your name came up, and I want to share with you some of the comments that people said. And she said that you are one of the most humble people that they know. You're a humble servant. That other women that made an impact on the community, but none as much as Marilyn. And that's where the first time I met you, I said, and it's meant as a compliment, you're Miss Urbandale to me. Another said, there's a special aura about Marilyn. And I totally agree with this next one is no one can say no to Marilyn because she's as dedicated as she is. The amount of time and effort she puts into what she does, it's hard not to get excited and involved. And that's, to me, one of your strongest traits of you might have an idea, and I love that you are never a lack of ideas, which is tremendous, but you make it someone else's idea and to run with it. And you're there with them, and that is a wonderful trait that you have. What a legacy that you have. So, how would you like to be remembered in Urbandale?
That's a hard question. I'd like to be, I'd like people to think I was kind and that I was concerned about them, because I really am. It was very hard. We have recently moved to a retirement home, and it hurt a lot to move from Urbandale because there's too much left I enjoy doing. But I feel loved, and I hope people feel loved by me.